What's up? This is Angelo Ferrer, host of the Social Gelo with Angelo podcast and head coach over at Level Up Gym, Kajukenbo, Hyogo, Japan. Um, Making this video real quick, just kind of talk about kata forms. I know a lot of people. I was talking to my friend John Hoylo. He's the head instructor over at Kajukenbo Okayama. If you haven't seen their YouTube channel, check it out. He's doing a pretty good job out there in his area, in his neck of the woods in Japan as well. And we were just talking, and he said, he casually said, I still teach forms. I know you focus more on MMA. And I thought it was funny because I know a lot of people think I don't teach forms because of what I've said about forms, or people on my show have said about forms as well. And yeah, I do teach forms. I do teach them. I don't make a big deal about them. It is true. None of my students compete in any tournaments and forms. If my students compete, which is a lot of them don't compete. To be completely honest, a lot of my students don't compete. They just come in here to get better at Kajukenbo. And if you don't know what Kajukenbo is, at the end of this video, there's a "What is Kajukenbo" video you can check out with John Hackman. And he talks a lot about how he doesn't teach forms at all. He doesn't teach forms at all, and he did away with point sparring. Me personally, Kajukenbo guys are allowed to do what they want, right? So if you're watching this, you don't do Kajukenbo, you're probably maybe an MMA guy, or you come from karate or taekwondo, whatever style you come from. Most MMA schools, boxing and kickboxing places, have done away. Don't have forms, period. That's not even their emphasis, and their goal is a sport, and to meet the requirements for that sport, they focus on their sport, which is what you should do. If you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you should practice this. So I guess I'm getting really diverted here. So what are forms good for? And that I think that's the title of the video I'm going to go with, is what are forms good for. Originally, I was going to say, are forms like yoga? So it's funny that MMA guys have a big deal. They have a lot of shit to say. And again, before I say MMA guys, as if I'm not an MMA guy, right? I've fought in MMA. I've done cage fighting out here in Japan. I did a few small MMA tournaments when I was back in the U.S. when I was younger. So I am a quote unquote MMA guy. I think Ramsey Dewey. If you haven't checked out Ramsey Dewey's channel, he's got a great channel coming out of Shanghai, China. He referred to me. He referred to me as a martial artist, which is I think that's a good term. I do first and foremost see myself as a martial artist, and I think there's this awesome quote from George St. Pierre that said he can learn from anyone, anywhere, at any time. And taking that kind of philosophy, it's funny that a lot of people feel that they have no problem with yoga. Nobody. You go up to anybody who does martial arts, from the more harder styles like MMA and maybe arguably Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for competition, and you say that you're doing yoga, and they'll have no criticism for you. They'll say, that's great. It's going to help you with your flexibility. It'll help you with your breathing. It'll help you relax. It's really going to help you as a supplement to your MMA or to your Jiu-Jitsu. You tell people you're doing forms, and they'll tell you you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. That would never work in a real fight. The quote's always gone. But when I see forms, I see yoga. I see yoga in forms. When I first did yoga, at that point, I've only done forms from Kajukenbo, which, like I said earlier, you'll see later. But a lot of the Kajukenbo forms, there's two styles from my school. We have the Kung Fu forms, and then we have the karate forms. And then a lot of the Kajukenbo forms kind of mix a little bit of karate and a little bit of Kung Fu. And then my school particularly actually has Kung Fu forms, like Chinese forms like Long Fist and Tiger Crane and stuff. And when I looked at these things, I did these things, and you can do them slow, and they almost have like a Tai Chi look to them. And for me, when I started doing yoga, my yoga instructor was like, "Oh wow, hey, you have some of these stances that they make you do in yoga. You already kind of have them down." And then I thought to myself, she's like, "Have you done yoga before?" Never done yoga in my life. This is the first time I've ever walked in to do yoga. But there's a lot of things in my basic Kajukenbo program, the stretching parts and the forms in particular, that really helped me with my yoga. I already had the flexibility, and and I already had a lot of core strength that came from doing stretching and forms. So again, I'm not arguing. I'm not making a for or against argument. I'm just kind of laughing at how people attack forms, but don't attack yoga. So all the shit that you can say about how yoga, yeah, I can say that. You see someone doing downward dog, that would never fucking work in a fight. You can do downward dog in a fight, right? So again, if you're looking for a direct application from one thing to the other, it may not always happen. I think that's probably the beef that a lot of people have with forms, is that you're striking, you're punching, you're kicking. So immediately you're thinking, well, this person looks like they're trying to be some sort of badass, but what they look like they're doing is, as one person put it when they saw me doing wushu, ballet. It looks like you're doing ballet, which is another good note. I am sorry, I sound like I'm fanboying for Ramsey if he's watching this. Sorry, bro, I'm not fanboying. But he does contemporary dance, and I've also done contemporary dance, and I feel when I did contemporary dance that it supplemented my martial arts training. No, not everybody has. I'm not saying that if you're doing MMA, you should be doing contemporary dance, yoga, and kung fu forms. But what I am saying is there's a lot of things that you can do outside of your core training program that can supplement your overall well-being, flexibility, core strength, balance, that will help you in martial arts. And my instructor would say it'll make you a more well-rounded martial artist. And I guess that's really what is your goal? Is your goal to be the best fighter in the world? Then that's great. Then you're gonna really have to focus on whatever you need for that. Is your goal to be the best martial artist that you can be? Right? And that's a little tricky, right? Because then it depends on what style you're working with. Me personally, I love martial arts. I love doing Kajukenbo. I've trained in several styles. I just like learning new things and trying things out and getting better at the different acronym of Kajukenbo: Ka Karate, Jiu-Jitsu, Ken Kempo Kung Fu, and Bo Boxing, Kickboxing, which is why I'm constantly working within that to get better. So I guess you can walk away from this video asking yourself this one question: what kind of martial artist are you, and what are your goals in martial arts? And that will really answer the question of whether or not forms are useful to you. Some people look at this question and say, no, they're just not for me. It's not something that I'm into. It's not something I want to get better at. I just would rather just hit the bag as hard as I can and get better at combinations. And that's fine. That's your thing. No one told you otherwise. That's your freedom of choice. The only beef I have is when people start criticizing other people's freedom of choice to do something else. Like, I'm not going to criticize you. If you're going to go there and decide to do a left hook and just work on your left hook and you want to throw forms out the window, I'm not going to go up to you and be like, oh, your left hook isn't going to be as good if you don't know Tiger Crane or Fu Hawk, or if you don't know how to do any forms, it's not going to be as good. You're not going to be well-rounded martial arts. I would never say that to you. Good for you. But on the flip side of that, I think people that do forms receive a lot more hate on the internet than people that don't. And when I see that kind of stuff, that's where I kind of take a step back and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of fucked up. So that's my 2 cents. I'm in Japan, my 2 yen on the topic. How about you? What do you think? What do you like to do as supplement your training? What do you like to do? Put it there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Yeah, please subscribe, turn on your notifications. I always forget to say that. I always say it last. All right. Either way, appreciate it. Catch y'all later. Peace.